All right, adding a texture to a mesh. So this is all about the terminology thereof and some things that we have to worry about in all applications is material texture relationships. Okay, so window, rendering editors, hypershade. A material is what goes on an object. Textures can be plugged into this material to make surface or make a type of surface. We use a couple of these right off the bat. We either use a Lambert or a blend. Okay, but there's many of these, and each one has its own attributes and own channels that play well into rendering or workflows going back and forth to different applications. Okay, generally we use Lambert first, and if we double click on it, let's look at Lambert. So here's the attribute editor, and you can see that we have common material attributes. We have color, transparency, ambient color, incandescency. So each one of these can have a texture that runs these. Okay, and depending upon what channel we plug it in is the thing that we have to worry about what the texture looks like. Okay, so a color map looks much different than a bump map, which looks much different than a diffuse map. So each one of these channels has to have a different texture applied to it. We're just going to be using the color channel right off the bat, and here's what we can do. First, right click on this and go to rename. We'll call this UV check Maya. Okay. And let's click on the checker pattern down here. This will make a 2D texture, and then we can apply that to the material. So you can see here's the relationship, materials and textures, and down here below is my work area. Okay, work area allows you to move these nodes around, and then we can attach them to other things. So these two are not attached just yet because there's no line going to them. We can go like this, middle mouse button, click and drag over to this and go to color. If you don't have a middle mouse button, you're pretty much done. You got to go get one. But there's another way to do this. It's very long, but I'm going to show it to you because I always have students go, I don't have a middle mouse button. It's like 2013, so I don't know why you don't have one, but here's how that works. Okay, so double clicking the material, you can go to checker, and here we can attach a checker pattern to it. Now we got two checker patterns, and we can get rid of the first one, and there we go. So it's attached, and I didn't use the middle mouse button. All right, now we can clean up this work area down here by clicking on the actual material and clicking this button. This will show the relationship. These are nodes, and we're not worried about this one just yet. We will in a second. This one is our checker pattern, which is the 2D. This is the outcome, and this is the basically the source camera, or what it looks like in the viewport as it goes out. So we're looking from in to out here, and you can see that by looking at the little arrows that go this way. If you go to 2D texture, you can double click on this. It'll bring up the attribute editor. Let's say I needed to make a smaller checker. Well, I could do that by going over here to repeat. Right now it's repeating 4. Let's repeat it to like 128, which, if you look, definitely doesn't correlate to the 128 we all know and love back here in Maya. Okay, so if this is 512, this is 512 right here. We're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 8 is what we should be using if we're going to match that up. Okay, so we would repeat these in 8. And that's going to perfectly match up with our Photoshop one that we bring in. Okay, so let's make another one of these. Let's go to Lambert. This is kind of messy, so let's click on the Lambert and click this button. Let's go get that texture from our hard drive, the one we made in Photoshop. I love doing it this way. If I go to Desktop, go to Texture, Examples, I can click and drag with the left mouse button right into Maya. That is my preferred method of getting textures within Maya. Now we can middle mouse button click and drag this over and attach it to color. Now we have two materials. We have this material and this material. Okay, now for people that don't have a middle mouse button, here's how you do that. We can break a link, which is good to know, by clicking, dragging over the little line and deleting. If you double click the Lambert, we can go to color, we can go to file, and we can go to our hard drive. And hit close. Now it's attached and I didn't use the middle mouse button. I also now have another file in here. So there's a different way to do it. Now, how we apply these to, let's say, a 3D object, let's go into the box. Again, I have Create Polygon Primitives Interactive Creation turned off. That allows me to make the box very quickly. I can highlight it and go to 6 on the keyboard. I'll highlight the first one, move it over, and hit Shift D. This allows me to duplicate it. Alright, go to the Material tab and click and drag this out to the object using the middle mouse button. We have this. Again, we can go over here, do the same. Now you'll notice something. I did want these two textures to kind of match up as far as checkers are concerned. Okay. Now how we go back is very simple. I always kind of keep Hypershade open on my other monitor, but you can double click on this, go to this box, and here is my 2D placement texture. This allows me to wrap or repeat the UVs in a certain 4-4 pattern, and now these two match up. So you'll see that that's a little bit different, but that's how it works. 4 here is considered 8 back in Photoshop. Now let's look at this. Look how clean and crisp this looks at a distance, and look how dirty this looks and how blurry. At this point, if you're using the one in Maya, we have to kind of use Viewport 2.0. So there we go. Now we have the ability to see it at a very crisp level. If we wanted to increase the resolution on this one, we could. Again, that is just done by going into the material. There's so many different ways to get there. That's why I'm kind of showing you all of them. Let's say we go to the material, and here's my 2D placement. If we go to 8 and 8, close that out. If we want to do that here, we could. Let's go to File, click this button, get to the 2D placement. This one is repeated in 1, so we'd have to repeat it in 2. So there's a great way to change the resolution of that map within Maya. All right, so this is right now uniformity, and this is where uniformity starts. You can see the checker pattern is absolutely perfect on this box. Okay, we can read the numbers and we can now see the direction of the actual surface. So for example, this one at the top, I know that in the mapping, so if we go to UV texture editor, this face is here, this face is here. Okay, but what happens, and I'll use an example here, don't do this. What happens if this occurs? Okay, so now I see 5, and now I see these are upside down, but they're clearly not upside down here. Okay, we can now look at surface direction and understand it, and we can see problems that happen because of it. And that's what's very important about having the checker pattern in a certain direction. So let's look at that in the next video. But for right now, this is how you apply materials to objects, how we apply textures to those materials, and how we import textures into Maya. And now let's look at another thing in the next video.